Welcome back, my friends. We are going to be looking at 4.1 example here, and then on another day we'll do 4.2 example here because we don't want to have all the fun in one day. So this refers back to the chart that we filled out, and we'll be kind of referring to that, and this is just an example of how that all comes together. The first thing that we want to make sure we do is identify what our A value is, which is the coefficient in front of x squared, what our B value is, which is the coefficient in front of x, and what our C value is, which is the constant. That way, when we go and look at our chart and we find out that V sub x is supposed to be the opposite of B over 2A, we can go ahead and look at the opposite of RB over 2 times RA. That'll turn into 4 over 2, which reduces to be a 2. Alrighty, so I know that my vertex is going to have 2 as the x coordinate. And if you remember from our notes, or if you check back at the chart, the y coordinate tells us to plug that x in. So I go back up here, I'll have a 2 squared minus 4 times 2 minus 12. And so then I'm just going to run that through my calculator or my brain, whichever one is better for you. And I'm going to get a negative 16. All right, so now I know the vertex. So that's going to be a key part of graphing this. And so if I'm going to graph this, what did I find? 2, negative 16. Wow, that's pretty far. So I'm going to go over 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4. So clearly that's negative 16. Duh. So there's my vertex. Alrighty. My axis of symmetry, according to my chart, I don't have to do any math. I simply write, this is a really big space. I'll write really big. That x equals the x coordinate of my vertex, because I need a vertical line, which is always an x equals equation, that comes straight down through my vertex. And so the vertex down here, first of all, it's a minimum because my A was positive and the coordinates were 2, negative 16. All right. So according to my chart, for my y-intercept, I typically plug in a 0 for x, but if I look at my equation up top, plugging in a 0 for x is going to be 0 squared minus 4 times 0. And if I look at the chart, it tells me that that's simply going to be 0, and then the C value, which in this case is negative 12. So no math there either. So negative 12 would be 1, 2, 3, 4 above this. That's where that's going to cross. And then I kind of use the buddy system. Since this red line is the line of symmetry, and since this dot is 1, 2 units to the left of it, then 1, 2 units to the right would be its buddy, its mirror image. And so that's going to give me an extra guide point when I go to graph this. Right now, we aren't doing intercepts and zeros and roots, but I'm going to cheat because you're smart people and go ahead and show you, even though right now you don't need to be able to do this. Because right now what I would be doing is maybe trying one more point or using these guide points. But some of you are super smarty pants, so I'll just remind you of how to do this. What I'm going to do is factor my function, which was x squared minus 4x minus 12. So I'm looking for factor pairs of 12 that will also, according to this equation, subtract to be 4. So that means I want to use 2 and 6. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a 2 here and a 6. And again, you don't need to know how to do this right now. In order to get a negative 4 in the middle, I would need a negative 6 and a positive 2. But I'm looking for zeros. So what would make this 0 is a negative 2, and what would make this 0 is a positive 6. So if you are comfortable with that, that's a good way to get a couple more points. So this would be at negative 2, positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Otherwise, I can plug numbers in and try them. And then when I'm done, I use all those points as guides to draw in my parabola the best that I can, coming down through there, having my turnaround point at the vertex, and then coming back up through. So that's going to be the majority of what we do, except for this last part. You are not responsible for knowing how to find those quite yet. We'll do a lot of solving in the second half of chapter 4. But right now, you definitely want to be able to find these y-intercepts and maybe its buddy, find the vertex. And then if needed, use a couple of points to make a chart. And what I usually do is if I know the vertex, like in this example is 2, -16, then I choose numbers around the vertex. So I choose one number less, one number greater, because when I plug those numbers in, they will have the same value. So if I had gone to my function and plugged in 1 squared minus 4 times 1 minus 12, I'd end up with 1 minus 4 minus 12. So I'd be at -15. And then it's like a 2-for-1. It's like math happy hour, because then I know that both here and here I get a -15. And then that way, without having to know how to factor or find my zeros, I'd still have the 5 points to go ahead and graph. If you then chose another set of points, just keep going in either direction, because then they will be opposite but equal distance from that vertex, and they'll get the same answer. So when this is -12, so will the 4 be, which is how we got these 2 points. So that's a lot to think about, but a chart, will never do you wrong, but just be wise about it and choose your vertex as the middle and then build around there.